Cruise news time. Well, Island Princess is the latest cruise ship to return to service since the global shutdown, and well, I'm on it. And some have asked, well, it's a return to service cruise. How's it been? Should you cruise on a return to service cruise? Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Lido, Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise news updates. And look, I am on the Island Princess right now, and I transited. I'm on the Pacific Ocean. Here's a shot of the Pacific Ocean this morning. On the Pacific Ocean after a full transit through the Panama Canal yesterday. Wow, it was a long day yesterday. I got tons of footage that I'm going to have to share with you guys at some point, but now I have a good idea of what it's like to transit the Panama Canal, and I'll be able to speak to that with some level of at least knowledge, informedness at some point in the future. But it brings back this broader conversation. I am on the Island Princess, and it's a return to service cruise. And look, I've talked to a lot of people that have had some challenges, so I'm going to tell you about some of the challenges on the Island Princess and tell you my thoughts on return to service cruise. But look, it's a show, right? So I want to show you some of that cruise life before we get into that topic. Just 2 days ago, I was in Cartagena, Colombia, and I did an excursion there. So let me just briefly walk you through this excursion. It's going to be like adventure in a minute. So just give me a minute and I'll take you on an adventure. First and foremost, left the cruise ship, jumped on a tour bus, and made our way into the city of Cartagena. I'd never seen it before. It was wild. When you looked at it out of the balcony, there was a skyline there. And later I would understand what they called that skyline. But we boarded a bus, we headed to a hotel, and the first part of our excursion was a presentation of local folk dance. And it was fantastic. This was about a half an hour part of our journey, full-on music and dance, and it was very cool. We left there and we went to Old Town. It's an inner walled part of the city, and one of the highlights was this big Catholic church. We were able to tour through the church. Fascinating stuff there. And then we got back on the buses and we headed to the new part of Cartagena that they call Little Miami. And it makes a lot of sense now. The skyline that I saw from the cruise ship, it looks like Miami. And this is kind of the affluent part of town with shops and residential areas, all kind of an elevated experience. And we went to the Emerald Museum there. Emerald Museum was interesting. The top floor of the building was the Emerald Museum, where they talked about how emeralds from Colombia are gathered and how the Colombian emeralds are superior to many other emeralds around the world. And then they drop you off in the gift shop. How about that? They drop you off in the emerald store, and then we boarded back to the bus, and they dropped us off, not where they picked us up. The cool thing about the bus, they picked us up right at the cruise port, but they dropped us off a good distance from the cruise port where there's a little bit of a bird sanctuary. So there was a wild place to walk through. There were parrots and peacocks and all kinds of foliage, and it was really neat. They also had local coffee and local food, empanadas, that kind of thing. And then they let you either take a bus back, but I decided to walk back to the cruise port and get some steps in. But yeah, it was a cool day in Cartagena. I'd never been there before, and that was an excursion I took through the cruise line. It was an $80 excursion, and took about 4 or 5 hours. It was really cool. Got to see those spots, driving around town, and that was my day in Cartagena. I hope you enjoyed the adventure. All right, let's talk about the Island Princess. So I booked the Island Princess with full knowledge that it was going to be a return to service cruise. I knew that the Island Princess had not been cruising before, but I wanted to cruise with our friend Don. I wanted to go through the Panama Canal. And so I've had a great time, right? I packed my patience, I packed my expectations, and I knew that there could be challenges. We had some challenges. The first cabin that we were in, the AC wasn't working very well at all. We waited for a couple days. Like we wrote it out the first night. Like, okay, maybe they got to fire the thing back up. Maybe it'll get cool overnight. It didn't get cool. It got progressively hotter, and we engaged all of the processes you're supposed to engage. We started with the room steward, and then when nothing really resolved there, we moved on to customer service. And everybody was super nice to us through the whole process. And when it became evident that they weren't going to be able to cool down our cabin, that it was going to be hot, they took us to another cabin and said, how does this one feel? Would you like to move this cabin? They helped us move all of our stuff to the cabin, and now we're in a new cabin, and it's perfectly AC, and they were super kind to us. They did a wonderful job, great customer service, helping us out in a situation that was kind of rough because the AC was not working. I mean, again, the ship's been out of service for a couple years, and you can't really test everything out, with just the crew members, so you really got to get passengers on board. You got to fire up all the systems and see what works and what doesn't work, and I believe that's the process that we're going through, and we're 4 or 5 days into it, and obviously it's running smoother on day 4 or 5 than it was on the first day. But again, I knew that going in. I had a challenge on Wonder of the Seas because I thought, Wonder of the Seas, of course, it was its first sailing with passengers, but I thought that would be ready just because it was a brand new cruise ship. And, again, I'd heard people say, don't go on inaugural cruises, that kind of thing. It all makes sense to me now. And so I came into this one with a lot of expectation and a lot of, like I said, I packed my patience because I knew going in that would be the scenario. Now, I've run into people that booked this cruise well before this cruise was supposed to be its return to service. And so that's a challenge. So I'm going to put the warning out there again. If you are cruising right now, as cruise ships are restarting after the pandemic, you run the risk of having a little bit of a challenge time. So even if you booked a cruise pre-pandemic, pay attention as to whether or not your cruise ship has been in service or not. And if it hasn't been in service, they're going to have to kick the rust off of the thing to get it going again. And so you're either going to have to pack your patience, you're going to have to come with some grace, be willing to roll with the punches, or try to move that cruise. That's what I would say, because I've met some frustrated people, and I certainly understand the frustration that, look, this is not what I thought I was signing up for. I signed up for a cruise a couple years ago. I didn't know that this was going to be the restart or the return to service cruise, and now I'm having a bad time. Completely understand and empathize with that position, and so that's why I'm putting it out there into the universe. If you are going on a cruise ship, make sure that you know that it's been back in service, or you run the risk that you're going to have a little bit of a challenge process. Again, Princess has been super great. Everybody's worked really hard to accommodate everybody. And again, I've met a lot of people that have had challenges. Those challenges have been resolved. I've met some people that are still working through their challenges. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. Your perspective on it is going to impact greatly how you feel about the way things are going. And of course, we can have the debate in the comments whether, regardless, it's on the cruise line to have it ready for you or not. But I think practically that's just not possible. So, yeah, having a great time on Island Princess. Everything is new for us. New cruise ship. I'm loving this cruise ship. Can't wait to show you more of it. I'm in the Wheelhouse Bar. They have these little rooms here that's got all this. The coolest thing about this cruise ship is there's so much historical nautical stuff here. Like, this whole room is dedicated to P&O cruising, and outside the hallway here is lined with cool illustrations of classic cruise ships. I love the dark wood. But yeah, so I'm enjoying the vibe of this cruise ship. Again, the Panama Canal was a really fascinating experience yesterday. Sea day today. We're on our way to Punta Arenas, Costa Rica, and I've got excursions there, and then we have 2 more stops, so there's still like 10 days left on this cruise. But yeah, that's the question for the comments. Have you ever been on a return to service cruise? Have you ever been on an inaugural cruise? Tips, what do you think? Has it been good? Has it been bad? I've heard both. I've heard people say I've been on an inaugural cruise, it's been fascinating, it's been wonderful, and I've heard others say it's not been great. So there you go. Thank you so much for checking out the show today. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. Please hit the like button, and unfortunately, if you do not hit the like button, I'll be forced to punish you, and your punishment is this. Every cruise that you go on will be a return to service cruise that involves changing cabins at least once. How about that? Like full unpack, repack kind of deal. Hit the like button. Avoid all that. How about that? This is Tony for Lido, Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.